What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to Blazers Uprise Live here on a Monday, August the 4th, 2025. Our first stream in August. Well, I say our, but it's just me, so I guess it's my first stream in August. After we took Thursday last week off, we're back. Man, it's been a week, but it feels like a month since I've talked to you guys last. But we got a fun stream for today. We're going to discuss what a breakout season would look like for both Shaedon Sharpe and Scoot Henderson. We're going to discuss what it will take for both of those players to reach the next step and some of the biggest improvement areas to focus on for them this upcoming season as we start to gear up for what's going to be a really, really fun 2025-2026 NBA season for your Portland Trail Blazers. Lots of expectations, lots of storylines to follow coming off the back of their 36-win season last year. Can the Blazers build upon it? Damian Lillard is back. Drew Holiday will be an interesting player to watch this upcoming season for the Blazers. Some championship experience bringing him into the team. But I think the key for this team, not only next season, but for the long term, lies within Scoot Henderson and Shaden Sharpe, and that's going to be the focus of today's stream. We're going to focus on a bunch of players coming up here in the next couple of months as we still have you locked in with content Monday and Thursday, most of the time. Not last week, but most of the time, Monday and Thursday evenings here on the West Coast. What's going on, everybody? Hopefully you're having a good Monday. Hopefully you had a good weekend. You can let me know in the live chat what you were up to this weekend. I'll take some questions at the end of this stream as it's just me. Eric is on vacation. He won't be here for this stream and then the 3 streams following this. So get used to just having me. Hopefully don't get too used to me being in glasses. Hopefully this is my last stream having to wear glasses as I will get checked out on Thursday morning and hopefully be able to wear contacts again because I am so I'm so sick of constantly wearing glasses. To those of you who just constantly wear glasses, I don't know how you do it. Quite honest with you, it's, I don't know, like, I'm getting a little bit more used to it, but man, it's still weird. And it's weird looking at myself on the live stream in freaking glasses. So hopefully I can ditch these and get back to normal. And then it'll be a couple weeks until we're back to normal with Eric. But really looking forward to some of the topics that we have to talk about. And then at the end of the stream, might also talk a little bit about the channel going into next season because I've already started scheming. I've already started planning for next season. But I always like to make you guys a part of that conversation. What do you guys want to see with the channel on post-game shows, video content next year? We're going to try and get back to some of that. So really looking forward to hearing all of your thoughts on that. Maybe around the end of the stream. Is your eye still messed up? My eye is better. I probably could wear contacts if I wasn't getting checked out. I probably would be wearing contacts, but I'm playing it safe. Always listen to your doctors and take care of your health. So that's what I'm doing. I'm listening to my doctor, even though it sucks. It sucks. But appreciate the compliment. Says glasses look good on you for what it's worth. Yeah, I've gotten that compliment. I might start wearing them here and there. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'll break out, on certain post-game shows this upcoming year. Maybe I'll break them out. But a little bit about my weekend. I finally got drunk at a baseball game for the first time, and now I fully understand the I don't even know how to put it into words. I understand the allure, and I understand the fun of getting drunk at a baseball game now. That's what I discovered this weekend. Went to a Mariners game, and I'll just say I'm falling in love with baseball this season. I really, really am. I really, really am. And it's, for me, as a Mariner fan, it was just seeing my organization go for it at the trade deadline for once. And it feels like with the NBA and the MLB, trade deadlines are a big thing. It's not as much of a big thing in the NFL. But MLB and NBA, the trade deadline is always huge. And I'm used to both these teams, both the Blazers and the Seattle Mariners, never, ever pushing their chips all in, never taking a risk, never making a bold move. But the Mariners did that this past deadline in a way that I haven't really seen the Blazers or the Mariners ever do. And I was like, all right, now it's time to get up and go to a game and give this ownership group a little bit of my money. So got a Julio Connect jersey. If you're not a Mariner fan, I'll be done with this conversation in a minute. But just went up and had some strawberry daiquiris at a Mariners game, and those were pretty strong. And had the guys sitting next to me heckling Adolis Garcia for the first 2 innings, and they got kicked out, which was funny. They got kicked out of the stadium, so I didn't know you couldn't heckle players anymore. But it's funny because the guy said his goal was to get kicked out of the game, and he was a Red Sox fan at a Mariners-Rangers game. So that was cool. I've heard worse heckling in a Blazer game with people that didn't get kicked out. So that was an experience. But yeah, it was a really fun experience, and I think I got a little tanner sitting out there in the sun. So that was a lot of fun, man. It just makes me ready for basketball season. Going to other sporting events just makes me ready to go to a Blazer game and go watch basketball inside Moda Center. So we're getting closer. The Blazers preseason schedule has been announced. The first game is like October 9th. I forget off the top of my head. But there is about 2 months until we get Blazer basketball back. So it'll be here before you know it. Got football right around the corner. Got a lot of fun sports right around the corner. Got a great new sponsor coming in September. Looking forward to that. Good things with the channel. Good things with the Blazers. Good things with my baseball team. Like, there's a lot of good things for me in the sports world right now. It's really, really weird. It's really, really weird. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling optimistic. But yeah, apparently you can't heckle players at a Mariners game anymore. Very strange. I guess that's what you get in the Northwest. I mean, in the Northeast, that's probably normal. The parents are probably bringing their kids up on that and teaching them how to heckle players with the way they go about things in New York City and Boston and Philadelphia. But apparently not here. So I thought that was interesting. Anyway, let's discuss the key to the Blazers. The key to the Blazers. Let me just talk about why I say they're the key to the Blazers right now and in the long term. And I think this is kind of going to be a little bit obvious to a lot of you, but I do want to touch upon this real quick before we start discussing what a breakout season for these players would look like. These players being Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe. So I've made this known a lot. I think the Blazers ultimately need as much upside as possible out of this rebuild. And I think there's kind of 2 different things that you look for coming out of a rebuild. Maybe three. One is draft capital. 2 is foundational role players, like guys that can fill a need where you don't need to go find a lockdown defender because you have Tamani Kamara, right? You don't need to go find an athletic wing. You got Shaden Sharp. Like, he'll at least be a good role player that brings something unique to the table with his athleticism, right? Now, the hope is, of course, that Shaden Sharp is a lot more, and we're going to talk about that. But you don't need a rim-protecting center. You got Donovan Clingan. Hopefully, you have your passing, skilled offensive center that can shoot threes off the bench in Young Hansen. I don't know if he'll be good enough to play legitimate minutes next season, but long term, that is definitely the hope, and maybe he can break out into something more. Maybe he provides the Blazers with that upside. But as far as the players on the roster go, outside just the draft capital, there's kind of 2 different buckets that I like to put them in. One is just these guys can fill a role, can fill a need, can be very, very solid for you and be a really, really good complementary piece to somebody better. And then the whole conversation about having a better player all goes into upside. And that's the other part of the equation. A guy like Shaden Sharpe, a guy like Sue Henderson, these guys have upside. Whereas somebody like Donovan Clingan is likely never going to be a star, but could be a really, really good starter, and I'd be surprised if he wasn't a really, really good starter, maybe as soon as this upcoming season. Because he could absolutely be a top 5 rim protector in the league this season, in my opinion. He does a lot of good little things, right? Like a lot of good role player things. I think the Portland Trail Blazers need a little bit more upside going forward. Now, some of that upside lies in the draft capital. They did get the unprotected 2028 Orlando first-round pick by moving down only 5 spots from 11 to 16, allowing the Memphis Grizzlies to draft Cedric Coward at 11, and the Blazers, of course, took Young Hansen at 16. It's a pretty good asset. I mean, if that season goes absolutely horribly for the Orlando Magic, it theoretically could be the number 1 overall pick, and the Blazers could get really, really lucky. And then you got the Bucks picks, the swaps in 2028 and 2030. The best 2029 first between Boston, Portland, and Milwaukee is the best draft asset that the Blazers currently have. So there is some upside in those assets. But I think if you're just looking at this roster and you're hoping that somebody can become the number 1 guy, can break out into a star, and you got Damian Lillard around the corner next season, and there, I think, is still some reasonable hope that he could still be at least an all-star level player. Very unlikely to be the old Dame coming off an Achilles injury at the age of 36, but I do have hope he could be a 24, 25 point per game guy with like 6 assists, and his shooting still going to be absolutely lethal, and he can make a lot of plays just off of his ability as a shooter. But he's not going to be that guy that can just carry a team to a finals coming off an Achilles tear at age 36. The Blazers need somebody to complement him. They need a star that can step up, shoulder the load. And we've had a lot of debates as to who that guy can be, and the 3 names that we always talk about: Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, Denny Avdia. We used to have this conversation about Anthony Simons. That didn't go as well, and now he's gone. But going into the reason why Scoot Henderson and Shaden Sharpe are the keys for this Blazer team this upcoming season, I think it's pretty obvious. We've talked about it. This offense was really, really poor last year. The defense became above average. In the second half of the season, this defense was borderline elite. And the hope is swapping out Anthony Simons for Jrue Holiday is going to help this defense become consistently elite on that side of the floor. But the thing holding this team back is obviously the offense. So heading into this season, we're going to look for what are some factors that could make this offense better. And I think the most obvious factor is you got rid of Anthony Simons, you brought in Jrue Holiday. Jrue Holiday's less ball dominant. He's less of an offensive player. He's also 35 years of age. Hypothetically, he probably should be playing 5, 6 less minutes per game. And you're opening up opportunities for Shaedon Sharpe and Scoot Henderson. I also think what goes into that conversation was, I read the stat online, so I'm just going to believe the internet here, but this is basically what last year was. Shaedon Sharpe and Anthony Simons as a 2-man combo was really, really bad last year. Like 4th worst on the team. I don't know what the minimum number of minutes or possessions were, but 4th worst on the team. The 2-man combination of Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe was the 4th best player combination on the team. For whatever reason, Shaedon Sharpe without Anthony Simons averages 27 points per game. Averages pure all-star numbers without Anthony Simons. Now, this is a smaller sample, and it's just kind of a strange one, because a lot of the discussion with Anthony Simons was he's the best player on the team. Look at the way he gets guarded. He gets blitzed a lot. That should open up easier shots for other guys. Right? Shaedon Sharpe, with Anthony Simons in the backcourt, was not the number 1 guy offensively last year. The defense would key in on. But for whatever reason, it didn't seem to help Shaedon Sharpe have an easier time offensively playing next to Anthony Simons as it did playing next to Scoot Henderson. There probably is not enough sample size there to put a ton of stock in that, but I do think you can put a little bit in that, where Scoot is a better passer, a better lob thrower, and is more of a pure point guard, with Sharpe being somebody that can handle the ball and create, but is definitely an off guard, definitely a shooting guard. And honestly, I think the Blazers could do more off the ball to get him going, and that'll go into what I think is going to be required for him to break out this upcoming season. But moving Anthony Simons for Jrue Holiday, I think, opens up the door for Shaedon Sharpe. I also think it may open up the door for Scoot Henderson, depending on how many minutes they play him, and if they decide to start him. Honestly, I'd start Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe and bring Jrue Holiday off the bench. We'll see what they do. Jrue Holiday's a great mentor for those guys on the defensive side of the ball. Now you got Damian Lillard to help these guys out on the offensive side of the ball to impose some wisdom within these 2 young guards. But I think these guys are absolutely the key for the Blazers this upcoming season to being a potential playoff team because, as I said, the offense needs to be better. I think the most likely legitimate difference-making thing for the offense would be if Shaedon Sharpe and or Scoot Henderson breaks out offensively. Because if these guys can take a serious step offensively next season, you got Denny Avdia. Tamani Kamara's no slouch offensively. Donovan Clingan can finish plays at the rim, can set good screens. You got Jeremy Grant off the bench. Hopefully he bounces back a little bit this season. I think the key for this Blazers offense being simply average is can Shaedon Sharpe and or Scoot Henderson take a legitimate step forward offensively. And if this offense can be average, this team can be good because the defense could be elite. That is the recipe for the Blazers actually being able to be competitive enough in a stacked Western Conference to get into the top 8, to compete with some of these really, really good teams in the Western Conference. Now, I think it's too big of a step to expect any sort of contention next year for the Blazers, but I think it is a pretty optimistic and reasonable ask for this offense just to get to being an average offense. Last season, I'm going to go to dunksandthrees.com. This is where I get all these adjusted offensive and defensive ratings that I talk about. It always takes a little bit longer to load than I would wish, but last season, the Blazers were 23rd offensively, 13th defensively. 23rd in adjusted offensive rating, 13th in adjusted defensive rating. The Anthony Simons for Jrue Holiday trade is only going to make that disparity between the offense and defense grow. Maybe you could make the case that offensively there's going to be more synergy with Jrue Holiday instead of Anthony Simons. I understand it if you make that case. I think the biggest reason you could come up with the Jrue Holiday Anthony Simons trade being better for the offense is it allows Scoot Henderson and Shaden Sharp to get more touches and might give them a little bit more of a chance to fully breaking out. So it's kind of like a one step backwards, 2 steps forward type of thing offensively. But at the end of the day, Jrue Holiday was brought in for defensive reasons and mentorship reasons, and he's a okay offensive player, but he's obviously a defensive minded guy, especially as his offense in Boston kind of regressed. With a smaller role, maybe with a bigger role, his offense bounces back a little bit in Portland. That's still a factor that we'll have to see play out this upcoming season. Like I said, there's a lot of storylines to watch with this team. That's one of them. Jrue Holiday's offense. What does that look like? But if the Blazers can go from a 23rd ranked offense to like 15th with the defensive improvement, I would be very, very surprised if the Blazers were in a top 10 defense. That's a recipe for being a playoff team. That's a recipe for being a 46 to probably like a 44 to 46 win team. And in the West, that might not be good enough to be any better than, say, 9th, but it's still taking a major step forward. I think the defense, I expect it to take a step forward, and if they just continue playing defense like they did the second half of last season, then they will be perfectly fine on that end. They'll be really, really good defensively. They'll lock teams up. But the offense is obviously the major question mark. Scoot Henderson and Shaden Sharp, if they break out, where they're true threats that defenses have to worry about, defenses have to game plan for, defenses have to send a second body to, it opens up easier shots for other guys. That's going to be the most important thing for this Blazers offense to improve. Now, there are other things like the Blazers just simply, as a whole, shooting better from behind the arc. They were 26th. They were ranked 26th in three-point percentage last season, so that needs to improve. They were also 28th in mid-range percentage, and the funny part about this is Shaden Sharp was one of the best pull-up mid-range shooters in the league for a guard last season. The Blazers still were a bad mid-range shooting team. They ranked 28th in mid-range percentage and 27th finishing at the rim. Now, those numbers seem really, really bad. The Blazers are bottom 5 in efficiency from all 3 levels. They did take the second most shots at the rim. Even though they ranked 27th in their percentage at the rim, that's still an efficient shot. They shot 60.7% within 5 feet, right? that's still efficient from 2. The whole thing is being able to get those shots in the first place, because defenses are designed to not let you get within 5 feet of the basket for a reason. Those are efficient shots. The Blazers shot the second most shots within 5 feet in the entire league. That's why their offense was ranked 23rd instead of 28th or 29th, as they got to the rim a ton. So I think a key is clearly, can they still get to the rim at that rate, but be a little bit more efficient, maybe get to the free throw line a little bit more. And then when the defense collapses on those drives and they kick the ball out, can they knock down a little higher percentage of threes? If they can shoot 36% as a team instead of 34%. That would be a major, major improvement. Even though it's 2 percentage points, 36%, it was pretty much average for the NBA last season. So if they could just be an average shooting team and get to the rim a ton, that would be great for this offense. So Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe, I think, play a major role in that, both as guys that slash and get to the rim a lot. We saw Scoot in his rim percentage, his rim efficiency last year improve a little bit. We saw Shaden Sharpe's finishing ability at the rim skyrocket last year. It might have been the most improved skill of any player on the team. He was rough the year before, and then this past season was super efficient on a ton of tough acrobatic finishes around the rim. And as I said, he was one of the best pull-up mid-range shooters for a guard in the league last year. So that's going to segue us to Shaden Sharpe and what he needs to do to truly break out next season. I think there's 2 very specific offensive things for Shaden Sharpe to continue to improve this offseason in order to become a truly lethal offensive player. I'm going to pull up his stats here last season. We talked about the rim finishing. We talked about the mid-range shooting. The three-point shooting was the problem. Shaden Sharpe shot 31.1% from 3 last season. He's a career 33% three-point shooter. His three-point percentage has gone down as his attempts per game has gone up all 3 years of his career, from 36% to 33.3 to 31.1 last season. And that was on 6.6 attempts per game in 31 minutes. So Sharpe, he gets up a lot of threes. Some of them are tough. He is capable of making tough threes off the dribble. And it's kind of a question to me of, should he shoot a little bit less from 3 and take easier shots from 3, and then would he be more efficient? And maybe the Blazers could get better shots than some of the threes that Sharpe shoots? Or is it, do you want him to continue to be aggressive from 3? Because if he can simply just make a few more of these shots that he's taking, then that's what would make for a really lethal offensive player. And I'm kind of stuck in between both of those things as to what I think is best. I don't know. It's for Shaden Sharpe and this coaching staff in this organization to figure out how to best improve Shaden Sharpe's three-point shooting ability, and the shot selection is a big part in that. At the end of the day, it just comes down to making shots, getting reps in, improving as a shooter, improving that process, and hopefully Shaden Sharpe's doing that this offseason, because I think just with his ability to blow by guys, his ability to finish at the rim, he doesn't even need to completely beat his man off the dribble. His leaping ability will get him to the rim, get him shots around the rim, even when he still has a defender on his hip. But being able to get defenders to respect that three-point shot, work in hesitations off of that, and just play off the threat of a three-point shot, I think would do wonders for unlocking Shaden Sharpe's scoring ability and taking him from a guy that averaged 18.5 points per game last year to a 24-25 point per game score. I think it is such an important thing, and just some little improvements from 3 obviously would make him a better player just because he's a better shooter, but it would just make every other part of the game easier. Now, of course, there's a lot of little nuances in terms of like how he decides to finish and how he picks his spots and this and that, but with how efficient he was as a rim finisher and a mid-range shooter this past season, if he could just figure out his efficiency from 3 with how many shots that he shoots from there, that would make him a truly efficient scorer. if he could shoot 35, 36% from three. I also think one of the big keys is with his athleticism and ability to finish around the rim, figuring out ways to get to the free throw line more. That's what a lot of stars do. I think part of his dribble drive game, and this is the second thing that I think is most important for Shaedon Sharpe to improve this season, is his base and being able to play strong as a driver and initiate some contact to be able to get to his spots. He's kind of like a straight line drive, try and beat you off the dribble, but he like not overly physical type of shot creator and driver. Not to say that he won't use his body and be physical here and there on some drives, but you look at the way that Scoot Henderson will drive sometimes. Denny Avdia, of course, is a master of this, and the way they initiate contact, the way they use their bodies to get to the rim, to get to their spots, and especially in Denny's case, to get to the free throw line all the time. I think that would be massive for Sharpe as well. And I just think there's a world where if he figures out the three-point ball and is able to hit some of these shots off the dribble a little bit more regularly and become solidly efficient from behind the arc and get defenders to play out on him a little bit more, and then if he can drive and be a little stronger, especially with his base, I think he needs to get a little stronger with his lower body and be able to initiate contact, get to the free throw line more. That's where you get a version of Shaedon Sharpe that is absolutely scary for the rest of the league. And somebody that could maybe carry this Blazers offense and would be a big piece in this Blazers offense trying to become at least average. And that's the hope for Shaedon Sharpe. I think the defensive end is a big thing, but one of the biggest problems with Sharpe is his offensive consistency. I think another kind of smaller but still important nuanced thing is just him remaining mentally locked in basketball games, because there's just games where on both sides of the floor he kind of floats, he kind of doesn't assert his will, doesn't seem locked in. And if you're going to become a star player, you have to fix that. He has to fix that. And I think that's the biggest reason for his inconsistency is I think it's all mental with him, because the physical talent is there. I think some of it's the three-point shooting, because you can kind of float offensively. If you're hot from three, you can kind of just sit behind the arc and take some shots from there and get your points that way. The problem is with Shaedon Sharpe, a lot of games he's maybe not shooting the best from three, and he's having to exert a bunch of energy driving and exploding around the rim and finishing in traffic, and especially with the traffic in the paint, given that the Blazers are not a good three-point shooting team, a lot of times defenses will pack the paint. It takes a lot out of you, and there was just some games where it seemed like Sharpe would rather just kind of move the ball along, which is fine. You want to play as a team offensively, but if you're talking about him taking the next step to stardom, he has to be more consistent asserting his will as a scorer. And we're talking about a guy who just turned 22 years of age and averaged 21 points per 36 minutes last season. But I think the biggest difference between a Jalen Green archetype and a true star is just consistently making shots and consistently being able to impose your will on a game offensively. Because Jalen Green in his best game will absolutely look like a star, but he is wildly inconsistent and struggles to impose his will with the ball in his hands, running an offense. I think Sharpe has a little bit more potential. There's a lot that will go into it. He needs to continue to get better at making the right reads, making the right passes, running pick and roll. But with where he's at 3 years into his career, and especially without playmaking really being a genuine strength of his, he was looked at as pretty much just a raw, high upside scorer coming into the league. I like the steps that he's taken so far, so I hope that he continues to just build upon that. I just think the key for him is just becoming an efficient scorer, because the score-first shooting guard archetype, I think there is a very thin line between having somebody that is very, very valuable and a true star and somebody who just doesn't have much value at all. And when you look at what Colin Sexton got traded for this past offseason, even Norman Powell, who's being inserted into all-star conversations last year when he was carrying the Clippers without Kawhi, the Heat gave up Kyle Anderson, Kevin Love, and a second-round pick and got Norman Powell back. The Jazz traded Colin Sexton and a second-round pick for Yusuf Nurkic. Those types of guys are super easy to get. And if we're talking about Sharpe being a foundational piece, being a guy that is very, very valuable to the Blazers, how valuable can he truly be if his archetype is that of a player that you can easily just go out and find on the trade market? Right? But those players look like stars sometimes. Colin Sexton is capable of having very, very impressive offensive games where he might be the best offensive player on a team in an offensive game. I mean, he averaged 18 points per game last year, just like Sharpe. He did it in fewer minutes, 28 minutes per game. And did it shooting 40% from three, 48% from the field. The thing is with Colin Sexton, he can't really find that next level. He can't really assert himself at that next level in terms of being somebody that can orchestrate the offense and continually impose his will as like a 25-point per game guy offensively. And it just seems like there's a very thin line between having a super valuable piece and having a guy that is a dime a dozen on the trade market and doesn't hold that much value. And I think that's the conversation with Shaedon Sharpe. Is he going to be a Jalen Green, Colin Sexton, Anthony Simons archetype, or is he going to become a legitimate star? And it's really hard to tell. It's really hard to tell right now. And I think what he becomes is very important for the Blazers, because if he is just one of these score-first guards that struggles to be consistent and is bordering on the edge of being a below-average efficiency guy, and then you have some of the defensive issues, then he's not that valuable. But if he can become a 25-4 guy, 25-5, where he's lethal off the ball and on the ball and can orchestrate your offense a little bit but doesn't have to have the ball in his hands to be a legitimate threat, then you have a piece that is super, super valuable and could unlock this Portland Trail Blazer offense. I'll answer any questions that you guys have about Shaedon Sharpe in the live chat. If you're watching back after the fact, shout out to you. You can leave your comments on what you think the key is for Shaedon Sharpe. But that's my spiel on Sharpe. I'm happy to read off your comments and hear your thoughts on Shaedon before I start talking and discussing Scoot Henderson. Samuel J. Larson says, maybe with Dame here, he can mentor Shaedon into being the offensive player we want. I think the biggest impact of Damian Lillard's mentorship will be on Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe running the pick and roll. I mean, Dame arguably, you might be able to make a case that Dame's the greatest pick and roll player ever, with how efficient his pick and rolls are and how lethal he is as a shooter off his pick and rolls. So, like, he is a generational pick and roll player. He is such a smart pick and roll player, and some of it has to do with his freakish pull-up three-point shooting ability. But he's very, very smart running the pick and roll, and I feel like he can be a legitimate asset working with guys like Scoot and Sharpe on really picking apart the pick and roll in a way where you can just absolutely control things running ball screens with the ball in those guys' hands. And with Chauncey Billups' history of not being the most creative offensive coach, being able to get Shaedon Sharpe and Scoot Henderson to be lethal pick and roll players will make it easier on Chauncey to kind of run the crap that he's run the past few years, and it maybe work out in his benefit. So I think that's where Dame's mentorship will be huge. Mute That Bozo says Sharpe's three-point shot seemed to flatten out as the season went on as fixable. Yeah, I agree with that. It did seem a little bit flat. I also think he kind of leans a little bit at the start of his shot, leans to the left a little bit. I feel like he jumps to the left a little bit. I think one thing that could help him is just making his lower body consistent from three, directing all his energy at the rim, jumping at the rim instead of to the side, because you jump to the side on a shot, you have to account for that with your release and basically shoot it the other way against your momentum, because you have to counteract those forces. So when you're jumping to a side as a shooter, your upper body all of a sudden has to literally account for that to shoot the ball straight. Whereas if you're jumping at the rim, you're basically, everything's flowing in one direction. So that is something that Scoot Henderson's trainer has been working on him this offseason. There's been YouTube clips of Scoot Henderson working out and doing drills and stuff. And one of the biggest things was just getting him to consistently jump straight forward at the rim and not lean, especially on the move where you're running off a screen. You still want to stop your momentum directed towards the rim. That has been a big key for Scoot Henderson this offseason. I think that is a big key for Shaden Sharp becoming a better shooter. Getting a little bit more arc on a shot, directing his energy fully towards the rim, not being off balance. Because when he's on balance, he looks like a legitimately good shooter, and he does not have bad form at all. His form's pretty good. So I feel like there's just a couple little tweaks that could be made to truly unlock him as a three-point shooter. And now the tough thing with shooting a bunch of threes off the dribble and stuff, if you're not consistently balanced, is when you're stepping back or you're moving to the side, it's really easy to kind of fade and be off balance as a shooter. Now, some guys are such lethal shooters, they can fade and jump sideways and still knock down threes. I mean, Dame's one of those guys. Steph's one of those guys. JJ Redick was one of those guys. But that's just the next level of generational shooting ability that I'm not expecting Sharp to really ever reach. And he doesn't need to reach that because he's a generational athlete. You can make that case. He's a generational athlete, at least with his leaping ability. So can he just be more consistently solid as a three-point shooter? That's all I'm asking for from him this upcoming season. Norman Sword says, I think Sharp and Scoot are both busts. Yeah, I said it. I don't know how you can make the case Sharp is a bust when at 21 years of age, he averaged 18 points per game, 4.5 boards, and 3 assists. How is that a bust? Look up the definition of the word bust if you think that's a bust, because that is definitely not a bust. There is a chance that Sharp doesn't reach the lofty expectations that a lot of people have for him. Like, there's a chance he doesn't reach stardom, but that doesn't mean he's a bust. Like, he has already become good enough that I don't think you'll ever be able to make the case that he's a bust. I also think Scoot is on his way. Now, I think it's a little easier to put the bust label on Scoot because his expectations were so much higher than even Shaedon Sharp's with where Scoot was drafted and some of what was said of him before the draft. But even if Scoot Henderson doesn't reach his lofty expectations, that doesn't mean he's a bust. A bust means somebody that was just like far, far worse than expected, and somebody who just like is not a good NBA player and ended up out of the league pretty quickly because they were not able to keep up with the NBA game when they were expected to be somebody that's really, really good. Or taking number 1 overall pick like Anthony Bennett, etc. I don't think that label will ever apply to either of those guys. I'd say Sharp won't be as good as CJ McCollum. I mean, I disagree with that too. I think you can make the case that he's pretty close to CJ. Like, CJ at his peak is better than Shaden Sharp is now. But keep in mind, CJ's first season as a starter, he was 24 years old. He was 24 years old. Sharp is 2 years younger than that. The first season CJ did anything in the league, he was 24. And he averaged 21 points per game in 35 minutes. Per 36, he averaged 21.6 points, 4.4 assists, 3.4 rebounds on a true shooting percentage of 54%. Shaden Sharp's per 36 numbers last year are like identical to that when he was 21 years of age. So he's already ahead of where CJ was at his age. And his physical traits are better than CJ's was at CJ's age. Well, see, ever. Much better athlete, taller, longer wingspan. So I don't really understand saying he's never going to be as good as CJ McCollum. Like, yeah, CJ had the shooting ability. He was a better shooter. But you can develop shooting. You can absolutely develop shooting. Sharp is better at a lot of different things. Like, they're not the same type of player. But in terms of production, Sharp, his age 21 season was on par with CJ's age 24 season last year. So I just don't really understand that either. But yeah, like, we can sit here and here's the thing with young players, and here's the thing with sports talk, guys. I'm not going to go too in on chat. I won't do that in a solo stream. But no player is perfect, and if you really want to hate on a player or act like they're not going to be any good or they're going to be a bust, you can always find some negative things to focus on and just only focus on those negative things and hate on a player. So you can sit here and just say, oh, he's not a shooter. He has no shot. And his defense is not good enough. He doesn't have intensity. That's why he's a bust. That's why he sucks. And it's like you're focusing on two of many, many things. And you're focusing on literally the worst possible things that you can just to act like the guy's no good. You're not focusing on his athleticism. You're not focusing on the fact that he was an elite finisher last year. You're not focusing on the fact that he was an elite mid-range shooter last year. He's also a decent free throw shooter, which all lends itself to him even improving from three, but we're not even going to think that far ahead. We're just going to focus on no shot and no intensity, no defense, and therefore he's a bust. Like, basically, you're just picking the things you want to focus on to fit the narrative that you want to speak about Shaden Sharp, and you got to take everything into account if you're trying to make a legitimate point. At least in our chat. At least in our chat. You got to have a little bit more behind that. All right? And on the flip side of things, this is why player stands hate me, is because player stands only focus on the good. And I'll talk about the good and the bad and everything in between. And I guess that, the stands and the haters both don't like it because I tell them what they don't want to hear on the other side of the argument. Anyway. Shaden's mid-range game leveled up like crazy last season. Yeah, he made improvements. He made improvements inside the arc. I expect him to improve as a shooter. I'd be surprised if he is not a better three-point shooter next year. We're going to segue this into a conversation about Scoot. Michael Baldino says, the Russ comps gave Scoot an unfair shot. It's like how NBA journalists were giving Kyrie comps to Fears. Some of these scouts suck. Player comps are never meant to be, and I'm not disagreeing with you, by the way. I want to make that clear. I'm not disagreeing with you at all. It's just that player comps are always meant to be taken with a big grain of salt because no two players are alike, and most of the time player comps are more so about the aesthetics of a player's game. I didn't really understand the Russ comps. I guess it was just for the athleticism, but Scoot's just a little bit smaller than Russ and is maybe 80 to 90% as explosive of a leaper as Russ, and that extra 10 to 20% is a huge difference maker trying to attack rim protectors in the NBA. It's the difference between getting a dunk on somebody's head and getting blocked, right? Two completely different plays. Like, Scoot's still an explosive player. I've never agreed with people like, oh, he's not athletic. He's not. He's very athletic. He's just not the top 1%. He's more so the top 2 to 3%. Which is a legitimate difference. Legitimate difference. But here's the thing with Scoot, man. I truly, truly trust in his ability to orchestrate an offense as a point guard. Yes, he still has turnover problems, but those improved last season. Scoot per 100 possessions went from averaging 5.9 turnovers to 4.9 turnovers. His assists were roughly the same, 9.4 to 9.3, right? So one less turnover per 100 possessions. If he could do that again this season, that would be great. Like, I'd take that. He averaged 3.4 turnovers per game last season and 2.7 this season. This past season. 3.4 his rookie season. So that's headed in the right direction. I think there was a lot of flashes of him really running the offense, doing a good job finding his roll man, throwing lobs to DA especially. but just also some situational stuff where he just made the right play, like was able to attack and kick out to a shooter. I love the way he kicks the ball out of his drives. I think if there was better shooting around him, he would look much more impressive as a passer and player, because he throws a great kick out pass, like whether it's driving right and kicking to the left side of the floor, to the weak side of the floor, through traffic and putting zip on the ball, to just, the simple kick out pass, but making sure he throws it right in a player's shooting pocket, right where they like to catch the ball. He's the type of guy that focuses on things like that, where certain players like to catch the ball, and making sure that they get the ball in that spot so they can load up directly into their shots. He's been working on a lot of pick and roll stuff this season and playing off 2 feet. I think a great guy for him to study is a guy like Jalen Brunson, who took some time to develop in the NBA, but now is an absolute superstar for the New York Knicks. And he's a strong-bodied guard, not as athletic as Scoot, but has a lot of craft. And I think that's what Scoot needs to continue to develop. And craft can mean a bunch of different things, but just as a general idea, becoming a more crafty player is the key for Scoot truly becoming, hopefully, a star one day. Because while it would have been great for him to be such an athletic freak of nature that he could have just become a star just off of that in general, that's simply not the case. The athleticism could be a major asset for him, but he has to get craftier. And I think that was one of the issues, especially his rookie season, where he couldn't even shoot a left-handed layup his rookie season. He would shoot the ball with his right hand on the left side of the backboard and get blocked because of it, because he wouldn't go up with his left hand. I dropped a whole Scoot Henderson film breakdown for his rookie year over a year ago. It was like a 35-minute video. That was one of the things I focused on, right? And just not knowing how to attack rim protectors and what to do if he got into the lane, if there was traffic, and he really struggled in that regard. I think he took some serious strides last season. He had some very impressive left-handed finishes in traffic, left-handed finishes on rim protectors where he created contact and finished through it. And that's why last season encouraged me so much, is you could tell that he was improving upon the things that were his biggest issues and biggest weaknesses. He also became a 35.4% three-point shooter last year. That's a huge development, right? He got pretty close to average. I'm sorry, a little detour here. This comment's so funny. Optimism is impressive. I've been a Blazer fan for 41 years. Let's be real in here. Yeah, man. You're right. I've never been real. I've always just been way too optimistic. I've never kept it real. You got me. You got me, man. Always too positive or too negative. Anyway, I think the key for Scoot is just figuring out how to finish around the rim and like use craft, when to pull up for a little 6-foot floater, when to attack the backboard, and just seeing the floor as a whole. He's worked on a lot of pick and roll stuff this offseason, working on maintaining full vision of his options as a passer while also attacking the rim. I highly recommend you go watch these workout tapes. They're very interesting to watch, in my opinion. In these tapes, his shot looks really good. I think that's going to continue to be a key for him. But the problem is, coming to the league, he was used to just using his speed and athleticism to beat everybody, and you have to be craftier and more nuanced as an NBA point guard in order to actually effectively drive and score and drive and kick and all that stuff. So last year he showed some major strides, but I've always kind of, when he does slow down and does try and use pace, I've always kind of had a good feeling about that, even going back to some flashes his rookie season. There's just moments where he plays with pretty good pace and really picks his spots as a scorer and a passer well. It's just becoming more consistent with that, where he just needs to get better at consistently making the right decision. And the right decision, I mean, it's kind of an overall statement. Like, every play is different. Like, you're going to make the same reads on a lot of plays, but there's so many factors that go into it that the right decision is basically a combination of weighing a bunch of different things in a split instant. It's tough, but I've seen a lot of instances in Scoot where he makes a split-second decision. It's the right decision, and he'll even set it up beforehand in a way that gives a shooter a little bit more space, gets them a good shot, gets them the pass in their shooting pocket, that sort of stuff. Like little nuanced things with Scoot. I just think as a scorer, like being able to get into the paint and use his body, being able to be strong as a driver, use pump fakes around the rim, pivot, like that little crafty stuff that Jalen Brunson does, I'm hoping that he can tap into a little bit. And not to say he's going to be the same player as Jalen Brunson. They definitely have differences, especially the athleticism. But Jalen Brunson being a short, stocky guard that's not the best leaper by any means. He uses pivots really well. His footwork's great. He uses pump fakes. He can get... There's just stretches where he can get any shot within 15 feet that he wants, it seems like. Or he'll at least get a good one, whether it's a turnaround little fade or, a pump fake, step through. And I think Scoot will continue adding to his bag in that way. And when you combine that with his athleticism, which is still a really good trait with him, and you combine that with his passing ability, that's where I have hope that Scoot one day will eventually become a star in this league. As somebody that can run the offense, average 7-8 assists per game, and get you 20 to 22 points per game. I think when you look at this offense and you look at Dame coming around the corner, you have Drew here. This is a very important season for Scoot to assert himself as the future point guard of this team. I think he'll be able to play with Damian Lillard. The defense might be a little bit rough, but that's why you have Toumani Camara, Deni Avdija, Donovan Clingan. 3 really good defensive front court players. So that you can hopefully make a combination of Scoot and Dame, or even Scoot and Sharp, or whatever it is in the backcourt, Dame and Sharp. Hopefully that's a good enough balance of defense and offense. But Scoot could be a trade piece next season. I think this is a really important season for him to assert himself as a key foundational piece of this team. I think he's shown flashes, but it's just becoming consistent. I do think last season with the way his role was yanked around, I don't think that did him any favors. The way he'd play 22 minutes in a game he was playing great at times last season was very, very strange. So hopefully there's a little bit more consistency in his role. Hopefully he plays more minutes, because I do think it was a mistake to only play Scoot 26.7 minutes per game last season. His minutes went down from his rookie season when he was worse as a rookie. It was very, very strange. But you look at per 36 numbers last season, 17.7 assists. Where does Scoot need to be in terms of statistical production to start entering all-star conversations? I think it's about 22 points per game, 8 assists on efficient shooting on a good team. The passing's nearly there. I think as he continues to develop his court vision, decision-making, I think that'll be there. I think he'll be maybe a top 10 floor general in the league, probably out the back half of that top 10. But in terms of a passer, playmaker, setting up teammates, I have hope that he can be in conversations with some of the best of the game. I think for me, it's just the scoring becoming truly efficient. His true shooting percentage jumped from 49% to 54% last year. He's still below average efficiency, but getting close to being average. The three-point shooting, 35.4%. That was better. His finishing did improve, but still needs to get better finishing around the rim. I think there's a combination of decision-making as well as just overall finishing ability that goes into that. Taking the right shots around the rim, making the right kick-out passes, not forcing tough shots at the rim that you can't finish, and then continuing to get better at some of the tougher finishes, using his left hand, some of the craftier stuff. And then continuing to master that floater, because with his ability to throw lobs, I think the floater pairs hand in hand with that. We've seen that with Trae Young of the Atlanta Hawks, where he throws a mean lob, but he'll go up, running the pick and roll, he'll get into the paint, and he'll go up, and you don't know if he's shooting a floater or if he's lobbing the ball, and that can freeze defenders. The key is just making that floater enough where it's a legitimate weapon that whoever's defending in the paint on the pick and roll, especially if you're playing against a drop big man, they have to legitimately respect that shot, and then all of a sudden it's a pass for a lob over your head. So Scoot, with his ability to throw lobs, I think continuing to develop that floater will really make that a lethal weapon for him coming off the pick and roll when he can't get all the way to the rim and finish at the rim. So I think those are some keys to look for this upcoming season for Scoot Henderson, hopefully becoming a breakout player and having a breakout season. And those were some of my thoughts. So feel free, if you're watching back after the fact, leave your comments in the comment section. If you're watching live, I'll answer some questions in chat. Anyway, Norman, you gotta stop being a moron in chat. You gotta stop being a moron in chat, man. Saying Scoot is a clown, Dame is a professional. All right, man. You got it. Great argument. You gotta love it. Listen, you gotta love it when I'm solo streaming and instead of having a co-host to pivot off of, I go to the chat and the first comment I see is just Scoot is a clown. Anyway, I try and be interactive. For what? What is less professional about Scoot? Yeah, I mean, Scoot, by all accounts, is a great kid that works hard, that treats people right. What's the problem with Scoot, man? What is your problem with Scoot? I knew Scoot would be this by his draft suit. Brother, how old are you? If you're judging Scoot's ability as a basketball player based off of, I mean, we're trolling. We gotta be trolling. I'm not gonna accept any other answer than you're absolutely trolling and I should pay you no attention. Anyway. Michael Baldino says the problem is you guys don't want to be, I think he's responding to people in chat, but he says the problem is you guys don't want to be patient with players. Everyone has to be an all-star in the first 2 years or they're a bust. Listen, there's a good chance this happens with Young Hansen. I said it would happen with Donovan Clingan his rookie year, where he came in and everybody's like, oh, yay, finally, a rim protector, somebody that protects the rim. He's not DA, thank goodness. Now we go from the worst rim protecting team in the league to a top 10 rim protecting team in the league. But once the honeymoon phase wore off, where, Clingan is a rookie, he's fun, he's new. But then once people got used to him, it's a lot of, oh, he's too slow. He can't play more than 25 minutes. He's a plodding big man. He's not the future center of this team. A lot of that crap. And I called it early last season. People were going to enjoy having a rim protector on this team that plays elite defense. Even as a rookie, he did that. But then at the end of the season, people are going to start nitpicking his game. And this is exactly what happened. People do that with Sharp. People do that with Scoot. Never mind the fact that Scoot Henderson is literally 21 years of age. Was an okay bench player last year. Still has plenty of time to develop and works his ass off. Improved a ton last season despite his role being yanked around. When he started, he started 10 games last season and averaged 16 points in 6.5 assists in 30 minutes per game. Like, man, just imagine if he was a starter that played 35 minutes a game. That's like 18-8. And as a starter, shot a true shooting percentage of 61%. So when he was a starter last year, he was legitimately a good starter at 20 to 21 years of age. But but not good enough. Not good enough. Like, people do have to get more patient with young players. It is something that I preach. Listen, I'm always ready to critique, but with young players, a lot of it's like, okay, if they're struggling on something, constructive criticism. This is what they need to get better at. This is how they need to improve. This is some of the keys for them in terms of reaching that next level. And that's what the stream has been focused on. You know, we've talked about some of the weaknesses with Scoot's game, with Sharp's game, but it's all from the standpoint of this is stuff that if they can improve upon, will help them break out next season and could help the Blazers as a whole break out next season, because if they can just be solid offensively on the backs, hopefully, of Shaedon Sharpe and Scoot Henderson with what should be an elite defense, that's the recipe for having a truly competitive basketball team next season, and us actually doing post-game shows past mid-April, which would be amazing. Amazing. I would absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. Give me your thoughts on Scoot, though, chat. I'll read some of them off. Michael says, people complaining about a rookie center being a borderline elite defender is hilarious. I know. People, you know what it is? People hate the archetype of non-athletic big man, even if he's a literal giant. 7'2", 9'7" standing reach, elite shot blocker, great instincts. No, but he's not athletic enough. He can't defend guards. We need our 7'2" center to be 30 feet away from the rim defending guards. You know, and since he's not that archetype, people have an issue with it. Like, that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. Sir Damus says, why so much Scoot hate? What did I miss? I mean, it was just one person kind of hating on both Scoot and Sharp. It's fine. But these two players are like what gets me super excited for next season, seeing what they can do, because I think Sharp having a fully healthy offseason is going to be a big deal. I think Scoot, I mean, you saw the strides he made last year. I expect similar strides this year. And hopefully he can just up his volume. But I do have the hope that they're going to kind of give Scoot the keys more this season, even if he's coming off the bench. Like, coming off the bench kind of limits his minutes. It's hard to play him 36 minutes a game if he's resting 5 minutes at the start of each half, 6 minutes at the start of each half, right? Then all of a sudden you're playing 18 minutes in a row to end each half if you're going to get him 36 minutes a game, right? Like, you know, it's hard to play him the full extent of what his starters minutes, like the line, it seems like, for a lot of teams in terms of how much you'll play a starter on average is 36 minutes per game. Scoot coming off the bench is a little bit harder, and I do like the idea of him starting and like running the offense from the opening tip instead of coming into a game where players have already established a rhythm and then him trying to find his. But that being said, with him playing next to Sharp, those two guys played better last year together than like a Sharp and Simons combination last year. Or him playing next to Drew Holiday, who's going to play more of an off-ball role and kind of let Scoot run things and will pick his spots and is just a good veteran, I think will be a good situation for Scoot. I think it will be a better situation than him potentially playing next to Anthony Simons. And that's part of the reasoning, I think, for this organization that went into the Simons for Drew trade was you get a mentor, you get somebody that can help this defense become truly elite, and you get somebody that offensively won't really step on the toes of Scoot and Sharp, and you can see if these guys break out or not. And then, you know, you got Damian Lillard coming next year. So this year is super important. Super important. Eli Hanna, what's up, man? Good to see you. Says, take the reins or go back in the shadows. That's Scoot's storyline for the season. I'm here for it. Yeah, this is a huge season for Scoot. I mean, I could see him kind of being in between where he takes more strides, but it's not like enough for people to be truly satisfied. And with Dame around the corner, it's like, okay, yeah, we should try and trade him for a star to try and contend in Dame's final couple years. I feel like that might be actually the most likely scenario where Scoot gets more minutes and averages like 16 points and 5 to 6 assists and shoots like 36% from three and, 43% from the field. But it's like, okay, yeah, but it's still not a star yet. Like, did he really break out? He got better still, but is that good enough? Like, still doesn't seem like he's going to be a star. Like, I think that's the most likely outcome for people this season. So, but One Piece says Scoot doesn't need to be the flashy, explosive point guard who scores at will everyone thought he would be. Yeah, I think he can be the athletic point guard that makes good decisions, sees the floor really well, can score from all three levels, and is all around solid enough to hopefully be a star. Scoot or Sharp becomes an all-star first. I'd probably go Sharp because I think he's closer. I feel like Scoot has more traits for carrying an offense, though. Just with his decision-making and passing ability, and I think he's a little better pick-and-roll player, right? Like, those are all things that you like to see out of stars. But Sharp has, the outlier athleticism, and the finishing ability is insane last season that he showed. You do have to worry about with Sharp, like, okay, what if he can't be an elite finisher and mid-range shooter? Then what does his offensive game look like? Because then he's more inefficient. Like, what if that doesn't maintain the really high rates that it maintained last year? Scoot might already be a better defender than Dame was, no lie. He had a stretch last season that was really impressive defensively. And I think you can tell like he really wants to be a problem defensively for other teams. So I think, he definitely cares about that end. I expect him to continue to develop there. I mean, he's just somebody that showed all the signs of development that you wanted to see last season. Unless you were just like, oh, I hope he goes from being a bad NBA player to a star in one single year. Like, that was always kind of unrealistic, right? He showed all the right signs of progress. It's still going to take some time, and people need to be more patient. Absolutely. Absolutely. And listen, there's things to worry about with both Scoot and Sharp. I know some people worry about Sharp's motor and edge and him maybe not having the killer instinct that he needs to truly be a lethal scorer, but I mean, he gets a lot of shots up. He has no problem getting shots up, whether it's from three or inside the arc, when he wants to. So, I think it's just, can he make more threes? And I also think some of it's like, when he played without Simons, he looked a little bit more assertive last year. Statistically, that's backed up. With some of it, like, deferring to somebody that was ahead of him in the pecking order at the guard spot. And now trading him for Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday's coming in here. Yes, he's a vet, but he's also, not somebody that's been on this team ahead of Sharp before. So is that what Shaden Sharp needed? But here's the thing. This is how we do 82 post-game shows a year, where we're live for 2 hours after each game. Is we discuss all these nuances and all these different storylines, and that's what I think truly makes following the Portland Trailblazers fun, is and following sports fun in general, is just seeing the way these different storylines and different things play out. Building a roster is kind of like building a puzzle, putting all the pieces together. One thing affects another. Who gets targeted more by offenses, Scoot or Sharp? Sharp definitely gets targeted when he isn't locked in, but I don't know. Like, I know there's the narrative that he was much better defensively after Chauncey moved him to the bench. We all know the story. Chauncey moved Shaden Sharp to the bench because he wasn't playing hard enough defensively, wasn't good enough defensively, and that was to hold Sharp accountable, to send him a message. And then after doing so, Chauncey said he improved a lot. I don't really agree. I don't really agree. I still think he had some struggles. I think maybe he was a little bit more consistent with his effort, but outside of that, he still had some issues defensively. I think Scoot is definitely a better defender. I don't think that's saying a whole lot. But I think the key for Sharp is just becoming a guy that's like solid enough where he's not a liability and not getting targeted. Sir Damn It says, I kind of just want Dame to be a catch and shoot shooting guard. I don't want him to do anything explosive maneuvering, anything that could injure his leg. LOL. I mean, it's an Achilles injury, and if he's fully recovered, then I don't think you should worry about him, like, re-injuring it more than you'd worry about any other player injuring their Achilles. Like, if he ever has a strain or anything, like, he should sit out a ton of games, make sure it's 100%. Don't play on strained Achilles or calves or that sort of stuff, because it's how you tear Achilles. We saw it with Tyrese Halliburton. I don't want him just to be a catch-and-shoot guy. I want him to be running pick and roll and pulling up for threes, knocking down threes, and then being able to use his shot to get in the paint, distribute for others, and like run the offense that way. But I don't know. It's tough to even think about what the team looks like with Dame running the show, because the roster could look very different a year from now, depending on all the things that happened this season. So just focus on this season more so than next season, but I don't want to go into next season like limiting Dame to just being a catch-and-shoot guy. What's up with the new Moda Center? Where is it getting built, or is it? So Blazers are being sold, and, you know, we all know that. And I think the whole thing about Adam Silver's comments about the Blazers need a new stadium, our preference is to keep them in Portland, and people freaking out about that. And then you get a Willamette Weekly article with Damian Lillard in a Sonics jersey talking about how the Blazers need to address this potential problem. And I think it's a lot about nothing. I think at the end of the day, the league would love for the Blazers to play in a new stadium, and I think the league is definitely not going to kill the leverage a new owner would have over the city to try and build a new stadium, because the leverage a new ownership group unfortunately has to build a new stadium is like, oh, maybe we could go somewhere else. Maybe we could go to Seattle. They have an arena that's ready for us. And that puts pressure on the city to do the steps necessary to keep the team. We saw that with Sacramento and their new stadium. But so much would have to go wrong for the team to move that it's just something that you shouldn't worry about. As far as the new stadium goes, I think the Blazers, they're doing some renovations this year. They either need to do a full-scale renovation of Moda or get a new stadium, it sounds like, in the next decade. That doesn't mean it has to happen right after somebody buys the team. I think they can spend a few more years in Moda Center while they start to figure out what their next plan is. And planning that is going to take multiple years. They need to move to Hillsborough so I don't have to drive down to Portland to watch a game. Okay, so Chappell wants post-game shows where I go to the game to start 20 minutes later than they already do. So shout out to Chappell. Listen, if there was an interstate going from Hillsborough to Vancouver, I'd be all with it. I would be all with it. And, if there was like something that mirrored I-205 on the other side of I-5 that ran down there, that would be great, but there's not. So that drive is brutal from up here in Vancouver. Connor says they got to build a new highway and bridge if that happens. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would love a freeway over that way. It would be much easier to go out to the beach. It would be much easier to get to Hillsborough, but everything funnels through downtown Portland. Like, that's the thing. Anybody from North Portland, anybody from East Portland, like downtown Portland, it's funneling a lot of, I mean, I guess it's only 20,000 people, but it's all kind of funneled through that area. I don't know. They're talking about Lloyd Center. They're not. I don't think they're going to do Lloyd Center, and I don't know how I feel about that. But who knows? Connor says the fact that there isn't an easy way to get from Vancouver to Beaverton/Hillsborough is insane. I agree. I absolutely agree. Wish there was, man. Like, it's funny because when I'm driving out to the beach, like driving through Beaverton and Hillsborough, I just think about how completely different it would feel as somebody that lives in Vancouver if there was a freeway going from Vancouver to Beaverton and Hillsborough. It would feel so much closer, you know? But yeah, I mean, there's plenty of spots, like, honestly, if they never are able to get the baseball stadium on the river, I mean, the traffic there is going to be a nightmare, but they're trying to put in a 30,000 seat MLB stadium. So if it's a 20,000 seat NBA stadium, like on South Waterfront, Telecom Crossing right there, you got space to build a bit of an entertainment district at Zidell Yards on the other side of the bridge. Some stuff around the stadium, like, that wouldn't be terrible. It's just how does the traffic work with any stadium you put in there? I have no idea. But, like, if MLB to PDX strikes out on expansion or something and maybe they sell the land for that. I don't know. And then does the jock tax apply to a new NBA stadium? I don't really know. Coco Poplin says, this team has held Sharp back. He played less minutes last season but scored more. Why is he usually last option? I mean, Scoot played less minutes last year, and that didn't really help him. Sharp went from 33 minutes to 31 minutes. He's still playing 31 minutes. Like, Scoot played less than 27. It's still a decent amount of minutes. I don't like viewing it as the team held him back. Like, Sharp had his issues. Sharp defensively was very poor last season. That's part of the reason why his minutes got cut. I think it's more justifiable for him to get a couple less minutes per game with some of the defensive problems he had last year than somebody like Scoot, who improved on every facet as he did the year before. You are a Blazers echo chamber spreading their narratives. Whose narratives? What? For the Blazers franchise? Like what? Oh, chat, am I being trolled tonight? I'm just always too positive, right? What in the world are we talking about? Cool. I guess my character arc is complete. That's crazy. I did not expect to come back off a week hiatus to now being too positive. But, I mean, look what happens when I don't have Eric here, you know? It's just I become a PR mouthpiece. just a total crony over here. This channel is a mouthpiece for the Blazers org, right? Yeah. Shoot. I don't know how that happened. I don't know. I put on the glasses or something, and I put on the glasses and turned into a certain radio host, I guess. Now I'll get a media pass. Hell yeah. Sold out for the media pass. Anyway, in future streams, I will tell you why Deni Avdija is going to become the greatest player of all time, and why Joe Cronin is a genius and has an IQ of 217. Be ready for the stream titled Joe Cronin =217 IQ. I already got it planned. If April Fool's was in the off season, that'd be fun. Do the Blazers win the in-season cup? Definitely not. Their group is the group of death. So, don't have high hopes at all. But, yeah, I don't know. If you're new to the channel and think I just kissed the team's ass, then you should do your research. You should go read Rip City Reddit and you see their hate comments about me being too negative. And you should go watch my Greatest Rants video. And, yeah, I don't know what to tell you, because it's just funny that anybody would even think that. But, I mean, I say the good and the bad. Like, I say what I think. Anyway, I'll answer any questions that you guys have. Michael, you're correct. Listen, next year I am trying to get a media pass. I think that would be sick. Connor, that is correct, and that is better advice. That is better advice. What's up, Matt? So next season, post-game shows, just give me your feedback in the chat comment section. Post-game shows I want to make a little bit more structured. A little bit more like segment-based. Like, not completely. We're not losing the whole discussion aspect. Analyst aspect of it. We're still going to like break things down, go in depth, take our time in that regard. But I do want to make it a little bit more structured. A little bit more segment-based. Kind of feel like even more of a genuine television style post-game show, just without half of it being commercials. You can let me know if you think that's a good or bad idea. Do buy or sell, like, pardon the interruption? Buy or sell? Yeah, that's like a fun thing we can integrate for sure. Just stuff like that where it wouldn't be every post-game show, but I don't know. Like, I got a lot of stuff planned out. It's just basically something where I want to show more interviews this season, especially like early in streams where we play an interview, play a couple interviews early on in the stream so you guys can hear what players have to say, and then we give our thoughts afterwards, not pausing it in the middle, just like play interviews basically live. And, being a post-game show in that sort of way. And then I also want to do more video content. The only way I'm going to be able to do consistent video content is if I have somebody editing for me. And I already have somebody in mind, somebody that has been editing my TikTok stuff. If you don't follow on TikTok, make sure you follow on TikTok. But I want to do some regularly consistent videos for you guys that basically have like different segments to them, like little 9 to 10 minute videos. Let me actually pull up my sheet. I'm getting to the time of year where I just love planning stuff for the channel. thinking about next season, getting excited about next season, you know. So this is what I've been on lately, and this is what I'm sharing with you guys because I want your feedback. If I could find the right spreadsheet, though, that would be amazing. You guys don't know. You guys do not want to know how many Google Sheets I have. So I want to do like 10 to 15 videos a month just on off days with, you know, a quick recap of the last game that shows some quotes, reacts to like some interesting quotes, maybe little clips from like press conferences for the first like 3 minutes or so, and dive into depth on a topic I want to talk about. You know, like kind of a hot topic, whether it's, you know, problem with the teams, somebody that's playing really well, a debate that fans are having, and then end off the video with just like an around the NBA, previewing the next game, and then like a little segment at the end where it's like a poll of the day or a stat you missed or reacting to a trade idea or like a little guest clip from someone, you know, a throwback clip from a, you know, stream moment like from years ago on the channel, just something random at the end of the video that's always unique, fun, and fresh. That's kind of the video ideas I want to do. I know if you're here in August enjoying the content, you'll probably enjoy pretty much anything we put out, but just it would be fun to do like quick video content like that on off days just to get you up to speed with everything happening with the team in case you missed the previous game and don't want to watch a 2-hour post game or don't have the time to watch a 2-hour post game. Also planning on doing more on podcasting platforms this year. So expect like post games to be uploaded to wherever you get your podcasts. That is something that I have in place to help me manage that and handle that so that you can listen on the go. We need Rich zooming in as Cronin. Yeah, maybe on these videos, one of the segments once a month will be a little Rich clip. You know, like just trying to keep things fun over the course of the season. That's always the goal. It's always the goal. Fun for you guys, fun for myself. But yeah, if there's anything you want to see from the channel, let me know. Arrow, I mean, if you have a way to pull off that idea, sure, but I don't know how you change it from game to game. Can we have another cat stream? Yeah, maybe I will start leaving the door open. I moved my desk over though, so now you can kind of like see more into the main hallway. That's the problem, is it's right by the main hallway. I saw some LaMelo Scoot trade rumors. That was not rumors. That was just an idea a random person came up with. It doesn't really mean anything. Can we get a Tumani's jail graphic? We do need one. I like the graphics we'll do next season will be something else. I'll just say that. Like, already have some stuff built. Mailbag Monday, says Camden. Yeah, so mailbag videos will take like YouTube questions, but for channel members, you'll be able to submit one of my plans is for channel members, you'll be able to submit a video question once a month that we will play on a post-game show or a mailbag or a video, where you can have face cam, like ask the question directly, basically. And that would be a fun, like interactive way, something to reward channel members. You should make the graphics this season like our jerseys, stripped down and lacking detail. Hell yeah. Just like my thumbnails. This off season. My thumbnails are a lot simpler. But there is something to be said for making things cleaner, but yeah, I still don't like the jersey changes, but at least they kept the slash. Camden says that's a terrific idea. Yeah, glad you think so, man. Glad you think so. I think that'd be a fun way to reward channel members, and we could still do our normal mailbag stuff with comments and stuff. But like that's the other thing. I'm trying to figure out a way to reward channel members more. Those of you who are a channel member, you can become a channel member by clicking the join button. But I want to make it worth your while, so trying to find ways to do that. Alex, no, I don't think so. He hasn't caused problems in years. I mean, even when he was outspoken, it wasn't really like that much of a problem. Be great to get a restaurant sponsor. That's a goal of mine. Somewhere where we can host monthly watch parties in person, where you can just show up for free and like, you know, grab food from a restaurant and do some ad reads for them. That'd be great. Shout out to Mubsy Hoops. 14 Canadian dollar donation. Says hit the like and sub Laz. Hit the like for Mubsy. Thank you, Mubsy, for the donation, brother. Shout out to Canada. We love Canada. And we love donations. We appreciate it. Hooters, says Matt. Are they... The Hooters by the bridge isn't even in business anymore, so I think we're good. I don't think that's on the table. We can add polls to the live chats. Yeah, I definitely want to do more polls. More polls. You know, we'll have the player of the game poll, but we'll try and do a little bit more. I also want to consistently do like tweets of the game. For those of you on Twitter, quick little segment. So I'm working on something for that, but basically I just don't want to be spending half of the post-game show working on graphics like I was last year, so just finding ways to automate it is super important to me. But yeah, I want to do like a couple TikTok uploads per day as well, so make sure you follow us on our socials too. That's a good idea. Just have a hashtag. Yeah, hashtag Uprise. Hashtag Uprise. That's something we've done in the past occasionally, but I want you guys to like know that that's something we do every night. So, you know, if you use that hashtag, we may include your tweet in the post game. But like, it's basically something where I expect the team to be good enough and fun enough to be able to like consistently do some stuff that was tougher in previous years when the team sucked. So that's exciting. The son of hooligans and beer burger used to hoop at the East Vancouver 24 back in my days. Maybe you can get in touch with them, LOL. All the comments about hooligans from Eric's experience there coming full circle would be funny. Yeah, basically we just need a spot with like a big, like a big enough event space. Probably would be better in Portland, though. Get a sponsorship with Level Brewing. I've never heard of Level Brewing. Yeah, like a brewing sponsor, you know, a beer sponsor would be cool. Level Brewing. Okay. Okay, they got a nice outdoor space. Looks like a legit suggestion arrow. Yeah, no, I said that before I even read your last comment saying it was a legit idea. Yeah, no, they look the part for sure. Yeah, but basically I want to place, if we have an official restaurant sponsor and you guys are in the Portland area, I'd hope that it would be a place that hopefully you like the food, go check out, go support. Support the sponsors that support the channel, If I can get enough sponsorship, I may pay some people to write for our website. Like, that's a goal. Blitz is my favorite watering hole. Yeah, Blitz would be great. Where do you do the 2023 lottery at? A round table pizza. A round table pizza. What about Brendan? You're funny. But yeah, just local restaurant, local chain. That's the type of thing that I would be looking for. So if you guys know anybody that works at a local restaurant, has maybe some pull at a local restaurant that you think might be a good fit for this, feel free to let me know. But yeah, if you're watching back after the fact, got any ideas for the channel, content you want to see, leave it in the comment section. Of course, if you're here right now, leave it in the live chat. I'll answer questions for about 5 more minutes and then I'll hop off the stream. If you, man, I've really been going for an hour and 40 minutes. It does not feel like that long. That's crazy. But yeah, if you got any other questions, I'll do my best to answer them here and then we'll wrap things up. Appreciate those of you that hang out with us in August. That hang out with us during the chill times. Connor says W glasses, by the way. I'm excited to be able to wear contacts again, though, not gonna lie. I'm cool with the look, I kind of like the look. It's just, they still give me a headache after a long day, And I'm not trying to play basketball in these, man. I literally played basketball for the first time in glasses on Thursday. The first time in like 15 years. The depth perception was so weird. I shot 3 layups off the bottom of the backboard. Like running in transition and I got a little too close to the backboard type of thing. It was bad. I did hit like 9 threes though. It was really weird. Like all my threes warming up, my first 3 threes I shot warming up, I airballed long. Because the depth perception was weird in these compared to contacts. So second half, I started trying to basically miss short and was hitting everything. Like I was essentially trying to airball short. Just like barely trying to shoot the ball from 3. And yeah, hit like 5 of 6. Really weird experience. What about break side? Break side would be great. Yeah, break side would be great. I definitely have a list I'm going to go down for this. Because I want somewhere that I really like as well. It's, would be great. No, I never wear them for basketball. I've seen way too many pairs smashed. I have 2 pairs. So if one gets smashed, one gets smashed. And I'm going to be wearing contacts too, like, hopefully Thursday. I'll get back in the contacts, so. For channel members, you could take a fan to a game giveaway. That'd be cool. That's like a little like getting a little personal, I guess. I don't know. Like, I'd rather keep it like related to the channel compared to like oh, I'll spend a whole 3 hours with you, you know? Like, not that I'm against that in general, just like as a member thing. That's like a big commitment. And how would I do that once a season? Like once a month would be probably a little too much for that because, you know, there's people in my personal life that I would like to go see games with. Not a bad idea, though. I smoke blunts in between quarters. Good for you, Norm. Manta Sleep Contacts. We'll have Manta Sleep as a sponsor, at least for a couple videos / streams in October, so that'll be exciting. We miss Manta, man. We love Manta. I've been shooting again for the first time in years, trying to improve my long ball. Any tips? Any tips? Maybe we should do that occasionally on post-game shows. Have viewers submit videos of them shooting, and then we critique their form. that could be a good thing to do. Any tips? Try and jump straight towards the rim. Focus on the way the ball comes off your hand. Try and make everything one smooth flow of energy from your feet all the way up through the release of the ball. Try and have the last point of contact be directly underneath the ball so you shoot it straight. Snap your wrist. Yeah. A lot of advice you can find online. I think a big piece of advice would be film yourself shooting, though. It'll give you better feedback than, like, you might feel and think like you're shooting one particular way, but you actually aren't, and you won't know unless you get visual feedback. Restaurant Club White Owl could be a cool spot. It's a club? We love a good club. Just kidding, I don't go to clubs. Let me look. Social club. Mosey, I know you do, brother. Shout out to chat for giving good shooting advice. We love it. We love it. Anyway, we're going to end the stream on that. We'll be live again on Thursday. Maybe I'll bring a surprise guest over the next 3 streams. I'm sure Stephen Vaughn is itching to talk to you guys. We love a good scorching trails, blazing trails, whatever we call it now. I don't even remember. When's Eric back? Eric is back on August 18th. August 18th. We'll probably have the schedule by then. Yeah, it's gonna be a minute. It's gonna be a minute. He's vacationing. I need a vacation. I think I'm gonna take a vacation in October. Before the season starts. Maybe during the preseason. If not, then in November. We'll see. We'll see. Anyway. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Leave a like. Easiest way to support the channel. I try not to ask for likes too much, but you guys got to still like the stream so that I don't have to. Subscribe. All that good stuff. You guys know the deal. And we'll be live again on Thursday. as we go through the dog days of August and September. It's always a fun time when we start, getting into the dog days, man. And a couple years ago, we had the Dame Saga to tide us over. Last year, there was a lot of conversations about, man, could the Blazers still trade Grant? Would they get offered for Grant? This offseason, it's like, yeah, this is what the roster is going to be. Grant's going to be a Blazer next year. And they have all 15 roster spots filled. Dame's back. That's, happened and is kind of over with. Shout out to him for becoming GM of Weber State basketball. But yeah, so these really are the dog days of August, but we appreciate you guys supporting the channel and tuning in. One thing I didn't talk about that I thought about talking about was the Drew Holiday press conference. There really wasn't anything too interesting in that. It was pretty much exactly what I expected, so I didn't really have any thoughts. Didn't really have anything to say on that, in case any of you were wondering. And yeah, that's a wrap for the stream. Have a good rest of your Monday. Hopefully you guys have a good week. I'm out of here. I'll catch you next time. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers!